Ciao! It was Salmon Tuesday yesterday, but with Easter and everything, and I forgot, and I made a frittata instead, and Julie's not very happy.
No, it was very lovely, but I did miss my salmon.
So that'll be a Salmon Tuesday on a Wednesday. So I've defrosted 300 grams of salmon, and today I will be making salmon fish cakes, but with a little twist. So instead of using potatoes, I will be using chickpeas, and they are similar in texture, but the chickpeas I think will give a little bit extra. So also I will not be frying them, I will be cooking them in the oven, a little bit healthier. So hopefully Julie, you'll be fine with that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Let's get going then. I'll put a tiny little amount of olive oil in my frying pan, not a lot.
That's an Italian style, tiny amount. Wow.
And it's not a lot, it's less than a spoon.
No, that's not what I'd call a tiny amount, but there we go.
I'll put my salmon in when everything is cold, and I'll literally marinate it through the olive oil. I will not be adding any salt or any pepper at this stage. I have removed the skin from the salmon, by the way, so make sure you do the same. So move on the stove and put the salmon on fairly high heat to start with. But as soon as it starts sizzling, turning into a medium heat, something like 6 out of 9, and let it cook. See here, it's beginning to already changing color. Once this color has changed by the size of a little finger, literally, that's when you turn it around. So we will leave it now for 2 or 3 minutes. So while the salmon is cooking, we will get on with some other stuff, and I will be putting a canteen of chickpeas in a glass bowl. Jug. And as someone is judging me today, I will be putting 1 tablespoon of olive oil, so there is no ambiguity, and I will be adding it to my chickpeas. And I'm gonna get a blender and mush them together. So I'm finding that the chickpeas are very dry, these particular ones, so I've added a little water in the tin, and I'm going to be adding it so that I get more of a moist and smooth paste. Just literally, most probably the equivalent of a tablespoon. As a tip, in future I will be returning a little bit of my chickpeas water so that I can add that instead. Now, having whisked the first tin of chickpeas, I realized that I don't think it's going to be enough. We got my son eating with us, and he eats enough. He eats like a horse. So I'm going to put a second tin of chickpeas. And this time I've kept some of the water. Okay, I think it's good. I'm looking at the moment for a fairly thick paste, and I'm happy that I've done a good job. And I'm now moving my chickpeas paste out of my jug into a larger bowl. In the meantime, I'm coming to turn my salmon around. As you can see, this is nice and done. So just very briefly turn it around. Another couple of minutes and this will be done. Once it's done, I'll turn it off and let it cool down. And I'm now going to add a generous amount of parsley. This is frozen parsley I keep in the freezer, very, very, very handy. I've picked some fresh rosemary from the garden and I'm now removing the stem. I'll give it a rough chop with the help of a knife, and I add it to my mix. Garlic next. Add 1 very large clove of 2 medium sized cloves, and I'm going to be putting them in my crusher today. And add them in. If you do not have a crusher, you can chop it very finely with your knife, that'll be just as good. Egg time next. So I've got 1 egg. And I'll give it a light beat first. And I'm going to add it as well. As I am in egg beating mode, I'm going to beat the other one as well, ready for later. But this time I'll give it more than just a light whisk.
Is this ready for the coating?
Yes, it is. and give everything an initial mix with a spoon that gives you an idea of consistency but also quantity. It's looking very nice already actually.
It is.
Moving on to the salmon now, just cool down and I'm going to be flaking it. So I'm going to be using a spatula, you can use a knife, whatever you like really. But I like to make sure that I don't cut it and I do not mush it too much. This will be good because when you're eating the fish cakes, or the salmon fish cakes, should we call them, you might find a little bit more texture in salmon. And as you might have guessed, I'm going to be adding them to my mix. And I'm going to be mixing it again with a spoon to see how it's going. Breadcrumbs times. I've got some dry breadcrumbs which I make by myself. And I've already got 1 spoon in. I'm going to be putting 3 heaped tablespoons. And I mix it. I leave the breadcrumbs for last because that gives me an idea of texture to see if I need to add more or less. If I did them earlier, it would be difficult. Bearing in mind we're making fish cakes, I don't want it to be too mushy, but equally well, I don't want it to be too liquidy. So I'm going to touch it. Yeah, feels good. Doesn't stick to my fingers. I think we're good. 3 tablespoons of breadcrumbs is a good amount. By the way, while we're on the subject of breadcrumbs, very, very important, let me show you how I make my breadcrumbs. I buy a loaf of bread which is being pre-sliced and I get home, and actually I did this today, and I place it on a tray or anything you might have available, and I cut it into little pieces and I leave it to dry. I've got a wood burner, so what I will do later, I will put on top of the wood burner just because I've got it, and I'll dry even quicker. But if you don't, you could just leave it room temperature, 2 to 3 days, they'll go rock hard, and then you can put it in your food processor. And this is what you come up with. Obviously, the longer you leave it in the food processor, the finer it will be, and it's really, really nice, really lovely. Also, as a tip, I cannot show you the tin because otherwise I get told off. What I do, I have drilled some holes on the top here, and once the lid is on, it will allow the breadcrumbs to breathe and they will not go moldy and they will last forever until you eat them. So we're nearly ready to make some fish cakes now. The first thing I'll do, I'll put a little oil on a baking tray which I've lined up with some baking paper, and with the help of a brush I just spread it all over. The first thing I do is to put a little olive oil in my hand, which will be very useful. So to make the fish cakes, I use an ice cream scoop to ensure that they're all the same size so that they all cook at the same time. So I have a couple of ice cream scoops. Using my hands, I make them into a fish cake shape and dip them in the egg. With the help of a spatula, I turn them around and then dip them in breadcrumbs. Cover them up, turn them around if you like. I've already done a couple of practice ones and they go in the tray. And here I am doing the last one. We are getting 8 out of it, and we thought we might have needed another egg, but I'm pleased to say that 1 was enough. Nearly there. So before they go in the oven, I will be adding a little olive oil on each fish cake, just a drizzle really. This will ensure that they go lovely and golden as they cook. I'll pop them in the oven for 15 minutes at 190 degrees in a fan oven, 200 if you've got a normal oven. And halfway through I will flip them over so that they'll cook evenly on both sides. So I'll see you in about 15 minutes. And they're ready. However, I need to make a confession. It is important because I think my channel is professional. I got the timing wrong. They were in for 15 minutes, but each side. So 30 minutes overall. I think it's because they were considerably bigger than what I was planning initially. So I cooked them for 30 minutes, 15 minutes each side. But if you were to do them smaller, 15 to 20 minutes should be plenty. So you can adjust the timing depending the size of fish cakes you're making. So before I test one, I want to show you the inside. Looking good, look at that. You can see salmon, plenty of salmon and
Chunks of salmon.
stuff going on in there. Safe to hold it with your hands. Smells good. Lovely and crispy. I think they take the fish cake, the salmon takes the fish cake to a different league compared to those fish cakes you might buy in a fish and chip shop. Immediately you can see that it's different, but also the chickpeas. The texture from the chickpeas is different than the potato. You can taste the chickpeas, so overall quite elegant and very, very nice. I really like them. And of course they taste very fishy, but also they taste very chickpeasy. Lovely, thank you very much. Hopefully you make them. I'm sure you will enjoy them. And don't forget to put salt and pepper. I forgot, I added them at the end, salt and pepper. Another confession. Ciao, ciao, see you later, bye.